there's no love lost between middleweight contender Chris Eubank Jr. and IBF super middleweight champion James Degale. If you're from the UK and you're a boxing fan, I'm sure you'll know about the tension between these two over the past couple years. Well, according to Chris Eubank Jr., who's been speaking to various media outlets this past week, including Sky Sports, he says that the bad blood between them stems from a sparring session, which they had a few years ago. He says he was invited into the Degale camp to spar, and in his words, he schooled Degale and beat him up. And he says that Degale was very unhappy about what went down, and he was disrespectful. I guess Eubank Jr. is saying he was verbally disrespectful towards Eubank Jr. and his dad, Eubank Sr. And because of that, Eubank Jr. decided to break the unwritten or sometimes written code because, fighters do sometimes get contracts for this sort of thing. But he decided to break the code of silence when it comes to sparring. And he decided to tell everybody, the public, what had gone on in sparring. Normally it's what happens in sparring stays in sparring, but Eubank Jr. said, no, to hell with that. I'm going to tell people what happened in sparring with James Degale. And he says from that, this beef between them emanated. Now, it has to be said, a few years back when Chris Eubank Jr. and James Degale were both signed to Mick Hennessy, James Degale did a few interviews where he mentioned that Eubank Jr. had contacted him. I think it might have been on Facebook. He sent him a private message. And in this message, he said something like, I don't hate you, but we need to build up a rivalry. Words to that effect. I'm not privy to exactly what the message said. I'm just relaying how James Degale described it. But basically, Eubank Jr. sent him a message which was saying we should start a fake beef, basically. And don't get offended by this fake beef. It's just a way of building our fight up and we can make a lot of money together in the future. James Degale spoke out about that message at the time, so he obviously wasn't down for any fake beef. Now, what I'm interested to know is, was this before or after that infamous sparring session? Perhaps it was after, I don't know, because you have to look at it and say, is that what's going on here? Is this a fake beef? Is James Degale actually playing his part, or is he not interested in any of those type of shenanigans? To me, James Degale seems far too much of a, I don't want to say he is somewhat impulsive, but I just get the feeling James Degale's not the kind of guy that plays games. He's not the kind of guy that is really into the psychological games and, fakery and pretending to have a beef when you don't really have a beef. James Degale just seems like a far more straight up kind of person than that. He's a very straight talking person, James Degale. That's how he comes across. Even when he was with Mick Hennessy, he was speaking openly in interviews about not being happy with Mick Hennessy. And it's a similar situation with his situation at the moment with his current promoter. Well, his current on-off promoter. We don't know whether it is his promoter at the moment. Eddie Hearn. So he speaks openly even about these situations which are normally private, and he speaks quite frankly about it. So I can't see him being in on any fake beef, any WWE style stuff. I think that's just Eubank Jr. But maybe you feel different. And ultimately, if these two guys do get in the ring and fight each other, how do you see the fight going? Some people feel that James Degale has maybe plateaued and isn't going to get any better than he is right now. And many people feel that Eubank Jr. is yet to reach his peak. And I'm definitely in that camp. I think that Eubank Jr. is improving with every fight. And if you've seen some of the training footage, particularly after his last fight, since his last fight with Nick Blackwell, this guy's a machine. And obviously, training is training. You can look great hitting bags and all that kind of stuff, but when you get in the ring, it can be very different. who looks most impressive hitting a heavy bag is not the person that's always going to win the fight. In fact, it's very often not. You look at Juan Manuel Marquez on a heavy bag and then watch Pacquiao on a heavy bag, and you would think, if you're just basing it on a heavy bag form, you would think that Pacquiao would walk through Marquez. He looks way more impressive on a heavy bag. But, heavy bags don't hit back. That's the issue. But be that as it may, Eubank Jr. does look like an absolute machine. The kind of training I saw him doing, and his hand speed is looking faster than ever. Combination punching. I mean, he's just in incredible condition. He throws in some of his fights over 100 punches a round, which is a very high work rate. And just on work rate alone, particularly if his punching power keeps improving, and I believe his punching power is improving. I believe it's been steadily improving throughout his career. If you do the kind of incredible training that he does, and he kind of repeats it like a mantra. He says, we have no days off in terms of his training schedule. Even in between fights, when he doesn't have a fight signed or lined up or whatever, he's always in the gym. Absolute consummate professional dedication, which is definitely something you like to see. And he trains like an absolute beast, a machine, improving all the time, improving punching power, hand speed, everything. By the time he gets to fight Degale, we don't know if Degale will still be champion or not, but by the time he moves up to super middleweight, will he be too much for James Degale? Will he have enough to beat him? We'll see. I guess it depends on what happens at middleweight too. If he takes that Golovkin fight and gets badly destroyed, would that affect him psychologically? Would he regress as a fighter because of that? Would he ever be the same again? These are questions that have to be answered. So obviously a potential Degale fight is quite a long way down the road. We'll have to wait for that. But for now, what do you guys think of it? Do you see Eubank Jr. beating Degale down the road? Or do you see Degale beating Eubank Jr. at any point in their career? No matter what, no matter how much Eubank Jr. improves. And as far as, just to finish the video, as far as this situation with Golovkin, some people saying Eubank Jr., because of his work rate, his fitness, his chin, he has a good chance of at least giving Golovkin a run for his money. Well, as far as the chin situation, yeah, he's been in there with people like Spike O'Sullivan, and he caught a few shots from Spike O'Sullivan. But other than that, he ain't been fighting no big punches, no serious world level punches. And that's the kind of power that Gennady Golovkin has. World level, one punch, knockout power. So he's never been hit by anything like that yet. And I suspect when he does get hit, or if he does get hit by somebody like Golovkin, he's going to be just as hurt as the other guys were who fought Golovkin. The guy's got serious power. He's very accurate with his shots. So when he lands on you, he's landing at the optimum range to generate maximum force. So, yeah, I can't see Chris Eubank Jr. beating Golovkin at this stage. If Golovkin maybe loses a step 12 months, 18 months, 2 years down the line, maybe a peaking Eubank Jr. might be able to go in there and get the job done. But at this point, right now, I can't see Eubank Jr. beating him. But hey, if he believes in himself, fair play to him for believing in himself. It does seem, strange that his dad is pushing for this fight, apparently. You would think that his dad would maybe want to protect him a little bit. But from a boxing fan's point of view, we always want to see these fights get made now. Now, Eubank Jr. is not a title holder at the moment, so I don't have any problem with him waiting to fight Golovkin. I know they've been calling Golovkin out, and that kind of does put them in a position where they have to back up their words. But if they hadn't been saying all that, I wouldn't have a problem with him waiting, because he's still a prospect. Maybe him go and fight one of the other champions, a rematch with Billy Joe Saunders, maybe fight Danny Jacobs. That might be a better route for him to go. So, maybe go that way, pick up a belt, get some more experience, and then fight Gennady Golovkin. I wouldn't have any problem with him going that particular road. So anyway, people, bit of a rambling video. Sorry about that. Just getting back into the swing of things here. Ain't been as active with the videos this past week as I normally am. So I'm going to try to rectify that today. Churn out some videos for you guys. But let me know what you think about everything I talked about in this particular video. All right. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.